Welcome back to the Dental Elements podcast. On this episode, number 17, our guest today is Rob Yager. Rob is an office manager, a dental assistant, a forever teacher, and a poker player. On today's episode, Rob is going to be teaching us how to embezzle money without getting caught. I was telling April that I've actually known Rob since I was born. Our moms were best friends. I've got to know him forever, and we both happen to be in dentistry. And he taught at the same school that you did, April, too, the assisting school for a while. I'll let him give you his little spiel or his little background story.
Sorry, I'm mobile, headed to the kitchen getting more coffee. So sorry about the movement of the camera.
Typical office manager.
In addition to both being in dentistry, I had the pleasure of teaching Cindy's niece, who also was a student of mine and is a dental assistant also. So cool stuff. But so I was a garbage man 30 years ago, and I was driving a Corvette to work, making $15 an hour, thinking I was, the king stuff out there. And I heard how much money a hygienist made per hour, and I about fell over. And I looked right at my girlfriend at the time, Kathleen, who I ended up marrying and now divorced from, regardless. I looked right at her. I said, "Hey, do you want to go to hygiene school?" And she's like, "Oh no, that's gross. I wouldn't want to do that." And I'm thinking, well, I already pick up garbage. How much grosser could a human mouth be, not knowing what I know now? And so I looked into the hygiene program, and I quickly realized that I wasn't going to be signing up for hygiene school. I had none of the prerequisites. I had no dental background. I was a little bit in a fantasy world. But I had a best friend who had a wife that was an ortho assistant. And she was making more money than me as an ortho assistant, me being a garbage man. She worked 4 days a week. Her office took her to Hawaii once a year, blah, blah, blah. And I ended up talking to my friend's wife, and she says, "Well, if you're looking to get into it, why don't you try assisting?" So I called up Concord on a Thursday afternoon. I called up Concord Career Colleges. I went down for my little walkthrough tour on Friday. I signed up for classes. I started the following Monday. Graduated 6 months later, perfect attendance, 95 averages, and started my dental career in January 1997. And
Look at that.
so I've been cruising through. I've done everything from sterilization all the way up to office manager. Short of extracting a tooth and giving an injection, I'm pretty solid on dentistry. So there's my background, April.
I always say I love hearing about it when males in the clinic that aren't dentists, assistants and hygienists, because you guys are like Sasquatch. You're hard to find.
Yeah, we are pretty rare for sure.
Yeah, and I'll have to say it, I sometimes prefer working with the males, less drama.
Yes, we need more males in the dental office for sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm a very rare person, and I've found a nice niche, and it's been expressed to me also in the years, working with, predominantly ladies and women in the office in the field, that it's often a nice change. And, even one time as a temp, I was in an office, and there were a whole bunch of assistant staff members sitting around, boy, and they were just laying into the gal that I was covering for. And they're like, "Oh no, he's a dude. He's fine. Don't worry about him." So.
Well, Rob, I have to comment real quick about the artwork behind you. Is that cats playing poker?
Dogs, I believe.
Oh, dog. Okay.
And those are original. Those things are like 40, 50 years old.
I like it.
I've got the dogs playing poster. I got dogs playing poker. I got a few of those.
So you play poker too, right? You have big
absolutely.
poker tournaments?
Yeah, I love playing poker. I got into the Texas Hold'em when it was real big here a few years back. Kind of gotten out of it. Play online through my Xbox. Just all play money, but occasionally I made a poker table. I have one, a 10-person poker table in my garage, and occasionally I'll set that up, have my adult sons and buddies and friends over, and we'll play a little, $20 buy-in game.
So you're a gambling man.
No. I play poker. I don't gamble.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Well, that reminds me. So Cindy was telling me, segue into that, your story speaking of gambling, not you gambling, but Cindy, what were you saying about Rob?
Oh, so Rob's going to teach us how to embezzle money
Mhm.
without getting caught.
Yeah.
A twist.
No, well,
I
no,
thought you
no,
were going to
no, because
help the offices.
there is no way to embezzle money without getting caught. So anyway, embezzlement, fun stuff. Holy cow. So I was an office manager for a Dr. Swanberg in Portland, Oregon. And after about a year, he decided to retire. He sold his practice to Dr. Valentine. Dr. Valentine decided I was basically what it came down to. I was the wrong gender. He was looking for a trophy model to sit at his front desk. And he fired me. I sat on unemployment for about 9 months. And I was looking for an office manager position, but I really couldn't find one. And so my unemployment was running out. I decided, well, I'll just take a clinical position again. And sure enough, I found a hygiene assistant position at Dr. Cruther's office, where I am still currently. And it was 4 days a week, and it was right across the street from my previous office manager job. 3 miles from home, 7-minute drive. I come home for lunch every day. So I got hired by this gal named Raynell. And again, it was a clinical position, showing up in scrubs. We didn't even have a hygienist. My doctor was scaling the teeth, and I would go in and polish, floss, give OHI, and I would set up their recall appointment. And what I discovered, though, is that office was using paper timesheets, just literally a Word document that Ray had printed up. She pinned on the lunchroom wall, and everybody just wrote their time in and time out on that paper timesheet. And that payroll was done internally at the office. It wasn't done through an outside payroll company. So those were the first kind of two weird things that I noticed. And over time, I eventually started to notice that the hours written on the timesheet were being forged, or were way outside normal. Our office opened at 6:30, but there were recorded start times of 4 a.m. And as a clinical person, not in a management role, I just paid attention. I observed it, kind of made mental notes of that stuff. And I also made note that this young lady who hired me was in her mid to late 20s, 27, had only been a dental assistant for a couple years, really didn't have any prior management experience. I quickly figured out that I was working for someone who was less qualified to do that job than I was. On occasion, she would close the office door and her mom would be in there with her. And her mom was supposedly a bookkeeper who was helping her figure stuff out. I'm not sure. After about a year or so of working in a clinical position, we started to notice things in the office, like our phones were shut off one day. There's no phone service. So we looked into it, and Ray quickly paid the phone bill and got the phones turned back on. So we started finding things like that were, little tiny yellow kind of flags of what was going on. And it came down to, it was probably November of 2013. I'd been in a clinical position about a year and a half. And Ray kind of announced or put a notice that she was leaving the office. She had to take another position at another office. And she knew I had prior office manager experience. And she basically asked me, she says, "Hey, would you be interested in my position?" And my off the cuff answer was no, because I just felt there were some things going on there that were not necessarily as professional as could be. And anyway, I found out what the wage was, what the responsibilities, duties entailed. And I told the doctor I'd sleep on it for a night. And so the next morning, it was like a Wednesday. She put in notice on Monday. I got offered the position on Tuesday. And Wednesday morning, I walked in and I told the doctor I accepted. I'll take the position. And I was told I'd get 2 weeks of training, that she put in a 2-week notice. And so that weekend, Ray called me on Sunday and says, hey, I need you to come down to the office and do some training. I'm going to have to start my new job on Monday. And so I ended up going down, and really the only thing I didn't know how to do that she did was the weekly and monthly production graphs on Excel. I wasn't familiar with Excel. So she spent about 2.5 hours showing me how to input data into Excel and how to generate the weekly and monthly production graphs. And essentially she quit. So I walked in on Monday. It was November 11th. It was Veterans Day. It was my first day as an office manager. I walked in, shirt and tie on, and walked into the office. And within about 5 minutes of being on duty, clocked in, I found a pay stub of Raynell's behind some other stuff. And I opened up the pay stub, and the hourly rate was $3 more an hour than I was told the position paid. So I immediately grabbed the pay stub and I walked back to the doctor's office. I'm like, hey, buddy, you told me it paid X amount of dollars. She was getting paid, looks like, 27. And he's like, oh, no. Position pays 24. I said, well, here's your pay stub. And he looked at it, and first thing he says, pull the payroll records. I've been on the job 5 minutes.
Wow.
And he's like, pull the payroll records. So I'm going through the file, I'm grabbing payroll records, and then he says, well, pull the timesheets. So then I started pulling timesheets. And we just, like I said, I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. Oh my gosh. But within 15 minutes, we figured out that she was being less than professional with the timesheets and the payroll. So I started going through the records that day and moving forward. And like 1 year, I think in 2011, she paid herself $53,000 in overtime. Overtime. We work 4 days a week, 9 hours a day. Nobody should get more than 36 hours. And if they do get more than 36, you got a 4-hour cushion up to 40. So literally, unless it's the week of the dental convention, or, we came in on a Friday for some kind of CE, nobody should have been getting overtime in this office. And so all the payroll records, that's when all those timesheets that I had noticed started coming into play. She was forging her hours, and she also was forging, we discovered the receptionist was involved, and her hours were being forged. Well, as we ended up hiring a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper went through 2 different bank accounts for 2.5 years. This gal was the manager. And I got to go through patient accounts receivable. I got to go through all the insurance claim aging reports. I discovered that we had people inactivated that still owed us money. Guarantors on accounts that I had to reactivate and contact people. My first claim aging report, the over 90 days outstanding was over $50,000 in outstanding insurance money. Not only was she stealing, she wasn't doing her job. She was committing insurance fraud. We had a dental patient that was in an auto accident, and she was adding treatment to the treatment plan, submitting to the auto insurance. And she was in the middle of doing that when she quit. And I discovered that, and I got that cleaned up. We ended up getting paid for the treatment that we did. My doctor made a comment. He says, well, I didn't even think I had cash patients. We had patients come in and pay cash. She would basically print a walkout statement showing a zero balance, showing the cash payment. So the patient had a receipt, and then she'd just go in and delete the transaction. And nobody was checking the delete records. And she'd pocket the money and walk out of there with the $500. The doctor had a medical, we didn't have insurance. We still don't have insurance. But we had a medical reimbursement program. So basically, if you went out and paid for an appointment, if you brought in your receipt, he would reimburse you for the cost of the appointment. Well, she was just bringing in the statement. She wouldn't even go pay for the appointment. She would bring in the statement. She would reimburse herself and technically pay for the appointment. Then she would make a copy of the receipt, reimburse herself for what the doctor paid. And then on several occasions, she made additional copies of the same receipt and reimbursed herself multiple times for the same office visit, the same bill. So she was stealing cash, committing insurance fraud. She was literally writing herself checks out of his account. She had a signature stamp. And we found multiple checks just written to her that she signed with his signature stamp and went and cashed, deposited. Basically, if you name a way somebody could steal money from a dentist, she did it. And so I spent the next 2 years working with that bookkeeper, cleaning it up, going through all the accounts, getting everything lined back up. It was pretty crazy stuff. She almost cost him his business. I was about a week. I think I was at the end of that first week, and I got a call from the Multnomah County Sheriff, and he says, "Hey, so and so, we're calling up. We're giving you a 12-hour courtesy notice or a 24-hour courtesy notice." I'm like, "Great, thank you. What for?" He says, "We're coming tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. to repossess the suite." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" He says, "Yeah, you're 6 months behind on your mortgage payments. We're coming to lock you out of your business. We're repossessing your business. The bank is taking your business from your doctor." I about fell over. I couldn't believe it. And he says, "So we're giving you a notice so you can take your pictures off the wall. You can take your personal effects, take your coats, your coffee cups, so you can take all that home because you're getting locked out tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And I'm like, "Can I call the bank?" He's like, "Yeah, you've got till tomorrow at 7. So I immediately called the bank, which was in Florida. And I said, "Hey, my name's Rob. I'm the new office manager. The last gal was embezzling. Can you please stop the repossession?" And the gal's like, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem. We'll stop it for you." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So I got the repossession stopped. My doctor ended up having to do a new loan because he was so far behind. He actually got a little better interest rate. We had a little positive come out of that. But he was literally 24 hours away from losing his practice because of what she did.
And had no clue.
No clue.
It's so common. It's what I hear too. Yeah.
None. And that's amazing to me is he had there was no backup. She literally did everything. And now we've changed that system. We now have an outside company doing payroll. He is now accounts payable. She was accounts payable. She paid all the bills, or she didn't. So I'm not allowed to spend money. We cut up the signature stamp. I mean, I haven't got chewed out for ordering the labor law posters. I spent, I don't know, $70 on labor law posters, and don't spend my money. Give me my Visa card number back.
Well, you don't. Yeah, I don't blame him. That's
so anyway, but. No, it was a mess, and she almost took him down, and we ended up going to court. We turned her in to the district attorney. We had charges filed against her, and she was found guilty of, I don't even remember the actual. It wasn't embezzlement. It was some other legal theft term that she was found guilty of, and she was going to be sentenced to 5 years in federal penitentiary. She was headed to Eastern Oregon. There's a federal pen over there on the border with Idaho. And me and the doctor, we went down to the courthouse on sentencing day. And unbeknownst to us, her parents, who were retired in Mexico, came up from Mexico because they were going to have to take her kid. She was literally going to be handcuffed in court, and she was going to be walked out of court and go to jail. And she had a new 1-year-old baby, and her parents were going to have to raise her baby. So they came up here and they asked the district attorney if they could pay the amount of the retribution that she was found guilty of stealing. And as me and the bookkeeper, when we went through everything, we added up about $125,000 worth of theft, between just outright stealing cash that we had no receipt for, down to insurance fraud, payroll fraud. We added up $125,000. We had solid proof on 82,000. We could document and prove she stole. So the parents offered to write the doctor a check for $82,000 if he would allow the judge to consider that when he sentenced Raynell for the crime. So the doctor and I actually walked out in the hall because she was ready to go to jail. We didn't have to accept it. In fact, the DA said this is a super rare thing to even offer this to somebody at sentencing. So the doctor chewed on it, and he's like, I really want my money back. And so he agreed, and the parents wrote the court a check for $80-some thousand. The court turned around and issued a cashier's check to my dentist at the courthouse for that amount. The DA informed the judge that the parents paid the restitution, and instead of 5 years in federal, she got 6 months in county, and she ended up getting out after 5 months for time served in good behavior. So she ended up doing some time. My doctor got a good chunk of his money back. We now have some new programs in place to prevent that fraud from ever happening again. And it was quite an experience to be able to put that on a resume that, hey, I've been through an embezzlement deal. But yeah, so that's where we're at. So
you're kind of magic. It was just like timing, the timing of you to come in there. It could have been somebody else, and to find those things and to get the practice from being confiscated, with that much time, and then to get the money back. It's amazing. We'll call you Magic Rob.
I've talked to the doctor about it, and like I said, sometimes the karma thing, things happen for reasons or whatever, and I don't know if it was karma or just the right place at the right time, but it's turned out to be my dream job. I'm now running a small private dental office. I'm getting paid a very premium wage. At least I consider it for my responsibilities and what I do.
You're not picking up trash anymore.
I'm not picking up garbage. 4 days a week, 3-day weekends. Sure, I don't have medical insurance, which is a deal for me, but I get, like I said, all jobs have positives and negatives, and right. And I just have to weigh the benefits outweigh that at this time. And but no, we're solid. We like I said, my doctor's paying the bills. We're caught up on stuff. We actually hit our production bonus for the first time in a few years, 2 months in a row, August and September. He put out some nice cash bonuses for the staff. So it's really turned out to be a dream job for me. My aging report, I've got, I think, $2,000 outstanding in all claims over 30 days.
Yeah, I've been into your office. You keep a pretty tight ship.
Definitely. So I'm looked at. My books are looked at. The bookkeeper checks my deposit reports on a regular basis. She comes in and checks the doctor's books. So we've got some redundant backup systems in place. The money responsibility, I think that was big. It was making the doctor aware. I think, as you said, too many dentists just allow staff to run their money.
Yeah.
I remember going to a bank cashing a check one time, and the cashier put the change in my hand, and I shuffled the change around and I counted it. And her comment was to me, she says, "Wow, in all my years of being a teller, I've never seen anybody count their change." And my comment to her was, "It's my money. If I don't pay attention to it, who's going to?"
Right.
And even though it's less than $1 in change in your hand,
mm-hmm.
a little bit plus a little bit plus a little bit adds up to be a lot. And having somebody, like I said, stealing a little bit from you at a time, it's a trickle effect, and you may not notice until your phones get shut off or the sheriff comes, locks you out of your suite. I've got some CDO issues, and everybody goes, "Oh, what's CDO?" And I said, "Well, it's OCD, but I like to have my letters in alphabetical order."
Oh, I love it.
And I take great pride in doing what I do. There's a term that I use that I don't think is used enough to describe people's value in whatever role they have in a business, and that's integrity. And I define integrity as doing the right thing when nobody's looking. And, I've had experiences in this office where I've closed out my books on at the end of the day. I've sent the doctor to the bank with the deposit bag and the deposit, and I've had a patient show up with a cash payment. And I could have easily took that money, gave him a receipt, deleted the transaction, and walked out of there with that cash.
Yeah.
But I have integrity, and I made sure a new ticket got written up, and he deposited that money tomorrow. Because listen, my job's too valuable. It's everything to me.
Do you know
Sure.
why? Did you ever find out or hear why the lady was embezzling so much? Like,
She had a little bit of a drug problem. I think her and the receptionist were dealing I don't know if it were the oxy pills or the Adderall, but I think the money was going to drugs.
oh,
There were times this office manager, Ray, would sleep under the desk in her office. She would just pull the door, turn the light off, and sleep under the desk on the clock.
wow, that's stealing too.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. So that's what I believe what the issue was. I also discovered when I got into the emails, I think she was just a shopaholic. She was doing, you joked about, staying up all night buying shoes. I think she was spending lots of money buying clothing items. My inbox had just tons of emails from all kinds of, clothing companies and stuff that, I had to unsubscribe to and delete or whatever. So I think it was a drug problem that initiated it. And, once you start, I think, getting a taste of easy money and the doctor's not paying attention, if nobody's looking,
Right.
if nobody's looking, it makes it easy to keep doing it. And I said, my doctor, I remember this comment. He's like, yeah, I just thought I didn't have cash paying patients.
Wow.
And it's like, no, you got cash paying patients. It just never made it to the red bag.
Right.
Her excuse was that she says, something was said in court, or her defense was the doctor was stealing the cash after she did the deposit ticket. He would steal his own cash off the deposit ticket between leaving the office and getting to the bank.
Oh, geez.
I'm like, well, that's not even viable because it's recorded on the deposit ticket. I mean,
And if it was true, he wouldn't go as far as taking her to court because he would know that.
why
Yeah,
is he going to steal his own money? I mean, it's his money. Just.
Yeah, if he was working in the court, yeah, totally. And so they say that the same person that opens the mail and posts it shouldn't it be the one that goes to the bank. Like, I know there's one person like you, so you pretty much have to open the mail and post it. But then you always have the doctor take the deposit to the bank. Like, you don't take the deposit, or?
No, that's that's pretty much been our office policy. I am the one. I've been the accounts receivable since I took over. That's one thing we did is we didn't allow anybody else to take money. That we only had one Visa machine. It was in my office. If the receptionist needed to use it and help me out, she literally had to sneak behind me to use the Visa machine. But yeah, I'm the one who posts all the checks, and it has been the habit of the doctor to do the deposit. There are rare occasions, like he had a couple webinars last week where he asked me to go do it. And I don't have a problem.
Right.
I've never looked at that as something that you should be pay attention to, but discussing it right now, it's like, oh yeah, that should be one of those checks and balances where somebody different is doing the deposit than who's opening the mail.
And then, yeah, in your case is a little bit different because, I mean, you've worked through all that, and obviously he could trust you. But then like doing an audit trail, but then seeing those things, like if things are written off or deleted, and having the doctor look through those things and look through the production report and the deposits. I know it's
Absolutely.
boring for him at the end of the night.
Well, and that's something he had to, the doctor, you got to make a choice. You're either going to pay attention or you're going to get stolen from. And if you don't have a solid person with integrity who's honest, who you can trust, you're setting yourself up for embezzlement. And yeah, you're right. There's not a dentist out there who wants to do their books. They all want to have their hands in the mouth. They all want to, be doing dentistry.
Right.
And they hire people to do that stuff. And, you and I have been in the field long enough to know that dentistry is one of the top companies to be embezzled from. And part of it is because most of it is small offices where one person's put in charge of opening the mail, doing the deposit. And like you said, if nobody's checking the audit reports, if you don't have any redundant backup system, like I said, you're just got the door wide open. So it's a situation that unfortunately too many dentists have themselves set up for, if not already occurring.
Right. And then I liked how you said the yellow flags too, when you said the time card, instead of waiting for a red flag, seeing those the yellow flags, little things that seem a little bit off, but maybe look into them a little bit more, dig a little deeper to see.
Well, it's, if you're not paying attention, or you've never been bit, if you've never been bit by a stray dog, you're still going to have that non-fear of walking up to stray dogs until one bites you. And he's been practicing since 1980, I think. So he's at the end of his career, and so it's possible he had previous office managers steal from him, and he just didn't know it until the circumstances of this particular one came up and bit him. Mm-hmm. And so now he's, like I said, he's been bit and he's paying attention. And unfortunately, it takes a lot of them to go through that. When somebody steals from you, your hard-earned money, that's an awareness. It'll wake you right up to pay attention for sure.
And then one other thing, and then I'll let April ask you questions. Oh, the email. You're saying you're getting a lot of emails from the clothing store, and just with the HIPAA compliance, having personal emails coming to her, to the business, then you're setting up security issues too with the computer. So
even if you take away the criminal aspect, she was in over her head. She should have never been put in that position. Mm-hmm. And he was lazy. She did her externship there. She got hired on as an assistant, and it was just horribly convenient for her to slide into that position. I mean, granted, I say that, and the exact same happened to me.
Right.
That
yeah,
I was,
not all bad.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily the circumstances, but unlike myself, who had experience as a manager, I taught dentistry. I've owned a couple businesses. She didn't have that background. Yeah. And like I said, he was lazy. He didn't want to place an ad. He didn't want to interview. He didn't want to do some other things that dentists don't like doing.
The business side, yes.
The business side, to get a competent person in there. And thus he took the shortcut, put an assistant in there, and he paid for it for sure. And he wasn't paying attention to yellow flags at all. So April had some questions.
Are you still there, April?
I am. I was all engrossed in his story.
I know.
Have you ever thought about speaking about it? I know embezzlement, when you had mentioned it's one of the top industries that embezzlement occurs because it's just so easy to do. Have you thought about speaking about it with other people who have caught the perpetrator? Or because I had another friend who was she's been an office manager for a long, long time in dentistry, and she did the same thing at an office we were working at. Stuff just didn't make sense, and then of course they left a paper trail, and the woman ended up, who's embezzling, was threatening she's going to kill herself, blah blah blah. And
this is other than just where my doctors bumped into a former co-student of his at the convention, and he's like, yeah, this is my business manager, and I got embezzled. And other than just kind of personal one-on-one stories with folks, I've never really chatted about it. This is really the first time in this format where I've talked about it in a way where it's can go public or make other people aware. So my short answer is no. I've never really thought about talking about it. I'm very confident in public speaking. I stood in front of classrooms of students for 5.5 years, giving lectures on dentistry, and I would have no problem talking about it, but not something I've ever really thought about.
Sounds like a business opportunity.
That's what I told him before too. I'm like, you should speak on this because you got that great voice too, loud voice and good story.
I've been told that I can hold attention for a conversation, and back in high school I'm tone deaf, but they always wanted me in the choir because they could hear me in the back row of the audience. So if there was somebody out there who wanted advice or something like that, I would absolutely share my story and let people know. Hopefully this podcast goes out and people look at this or they listen to this and, they get some information from it, or they maybe pay attention to something they didn't pay attention to before. I told my students, you got paychecks being an instructor that didn't go in your wallet, and going to graduations, having students bring their entire family up to meet you. And, I've got former students. I got the relief suction. Have you heard of that, April?
Yes, I have.
I have one of my former students invented that. He's the creator of that suction device.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, Ari.
Yeah.
He was a dental assisting student in my class, and I helped motivate. He's like, yeah, dude, I want to be a dentist. And me and Ari had some great conversations about, listen, man, this dental assisting foundation will give you the opportunity for tons of things to do. And now he's a business owner who created the relief suction.
Yeah, look at it now.
Yeah, in fact, we just ordered one for our hygienist.
I love hearing those stories about assistants, because close your ears, Cindy. Seems like we're always kind of like the last staff member to get more educational, more opportunities. Would you agree with me?
For sure. I worked in an office for 2.5 years. I had 13 coworker assistants in the back, 12 receptionists in the front. In 2.5 years, that was the turnover at this office, and it was all due to the office manager. Mm-hmm. And I remember one staff meeting, this will never go away, is as the manager, she came in and she announced to all of us assistants, there was like 4 of us. She says, you dental assistants are nothing but an expense. And I thought, wow, how morally defeating that one sentence was to staff. How do you get people to work for you and put forth a great effort when you look at them and you tell them you're nothing but an expense to this office? And so you're right. The dental assistant is kind of, it's the unsung hero of the office, because our assistant will take time off. She's a solo assistant. My doctor reschedules his patients, or we close the practice. We don't bring in a temp because we can't find anybody that does as good a job as our assistant. And and so no, and I'm a dental assistant, but I guarantee you, I'll hold the conversation with any dentist out there. I write letters to dental consultants at insurance companies that get paid all the time, and so having somebody who has that understanding of cleaning the room, all the way to knowing the different types of injections, the nerves that are affected, who can write letters to insurance, who understands claims. I consider myself a very unique position in dentistry, that you have managers who only come from business management, who don't have any dental background, or you have dental people in the role, but they don't have any management or business background. And it's tough to find that person who understands kind of everything. And I can go clean a room. I can go assist my doctor. I can write a letter to the insurance company. I can post a check. I can answer the phone. I can do everything in my office required of me as the manager. And, it's like I said, it's a very challenging position and very rewarding all at the same time.
Well, it's great to hear. You said you're in your dream job. You don't hear that too often, so that's great to hear that.
I'm very happy with what I have. It's still called work. I still got to get up at 4:50 in the morning to be to work at 6:30. If I could be retired, I would choose retirement for sure. So,
Well, I appreciate your insight, especially being a DA, fellow DA, and also fellow former Concord.
Okay, you guys just stop right there.
Yeah.
Now you're making me feel like an outcast again.
No.
No, go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry. No, I think, you guys are right. Assistant's a great career, and dentists, if they weren't so great, why would, most dentists need two of themselves, and they don't want to share them with anybody, and they do. They're like their right arm and their left arm, and
it is. It's a challenge. I'm in like I said, a small office. There's one person in each role. I've got one dentist, one hygienist, one assistant, one receptionist, and one office manager. Every single person in our office has to be, if not the best, very, very good at what they do. We don't have, I go on websites and I see offices where they have 4 front office people. I'm like, oh my gosh, what does the manager do with 4 front office people? I wouldn't even know what to do if I had that many people to handle all the responsibilities that the receptionist and I handle at my office. And so, it's a challenge. And, my receptionist doesn't have dental experience. She wasn't a dental assistant. So she'll get an email with x-rays and she didn't know how to properly label an x-ray.
So I learned too.
Yeah. So I've gotten to still do some teaching. I still get to teach this young lady about dentistry, and, we get x-rays and, or she doesn't understand why we're doing something, or, a patient calls up to schedule. And if you don't understand the procedures on scheduling that appointment, you're going to have, struggle scheduling properly and correctly. And so I'm still getting to do some teaching. But yeah, the assistant that we have is a Concord graduate. I'm a Concord graduate. I believe in that program. I've had issues with them. I'm, back when they let me go, but that's another podcast for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. We'll have to talk about that offline.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll quit recording, I promise. Go ahead, give us the dirt.
No.
We want the good stuff. No, I'm just kidding. So you're still a teacher. Once a teacher, always a teacher, and experience too. You have so much to share.
Thank you for saying that. That's the ultimate compliment, because I've met people who know a lot and understand a lot, but the ability to be able to teach somebody else is an incredible challenge. As I had to learn at Concord, there's basically 3 learning styles. And if you don't figure out which learning style each student uses, it can be tough figuring out how to teach them. So Cindy's out of here. So you got a goddamn baby in your arms?
Oh, this is my kitty. I got a kitten. Hold on.
Oh my gosh. All right. I'm a cat guy, so show me your cat.
Well, I got a kitten for my dog.
Kitten for your dog.
My dog was driving me crazy because I'm trying to work.
You gotta see this kitten.
Hold it up.
I got him a kitten, so now I got to take care of a kitten and a dog. So
look at that kitty.
Oh,
isn't he cute?
Oh, so cute.
His name's.
I've got a grown-up fat version of that one.
Oh, you
named
do?
Baby here. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm getting him grown up so he can play with my dog.
There you go.
That way I don't have 2 dogs, but.
Awesome.
But so we're cuddling.
Well, so that's really my story. Is went from being a garbage man, hearing how much money a hygienist made. It took me 20 some years, but I had one of my goals when I went to dental assisting school is I wanted to make $30 an hour. I wanted to be able to tell somebody I made that wage, and I got there. I made it. I'm above it. Does the $30 an hour carry the same weight it did 20 some years ago? No, it doesn't. But when minimum wage is still $7.50 an hour, and there's people struggling out there, I can afford to live by myself,
Yeah, and being in a job that you like, that you are appreciated, yes, and that you're still learning and sharing, and you didn't have to pay for hygiene school. You don't have that huge debt hanging over you, and you can only work 2 days a week because your body's so sore. I think assisting's awesome, and I think more people should go to assisting school. And we, I always say work to the top of our license. There's so many things that assistants can do that we're not having them do. Not I mean, pay them for it too. Pay them more. And
No,
same
I agree.
with doctors. It's like we all need to rise above. And
Everybody gets an education. If you go to Concord, I don't know, I paid whatever I paid whatever years ago. Everybody gets the same basic foundation. And as I taught my students, what you do with it is your choice. Everybody's going to learn mesial from distal, number 1 from number 32, what opposing from adjacent, whatever. Everybody's going to learn the same thing. There are going to be some students who go to Concord, graduate, have that debt, and then they go back to working fast food. There are going to be some students who go on to hygiene. There are going to be some students who go on to own a business. Others, I had a couple of dental assisting students who were dentists in other countries, but they couldn't get a dental license.
yes.
And they were going to assisting school.
Yeah.
So crazy stuff. But
same with hygiene or any other career, that what you do with your personal development and where you take it from there is what's important. Continuing your own education and growth, and taking responsibility for yourself, right, and your growth. And
absolutely. Everybody has hurdles against them. Everybody has, life is not easy for anybody.
right.
And, you have choices. You can either figure out that this is the path I want to be on, or this is the path I don't want to be on. And you can either sit around and cry about it, or you can go out and sign up for a school and do something different. Life is about education. As long as you're alive, you should be educating yourself about something, even if it's the current political situation.
We're not going to go there now.
No. That's another podcast.
Well, thank you, Rob, for joining us today. It was so great hearing your story, and I'm sure people are going to learn from this, and you could be saving, a lot of people some headaches. Thank you so much for being on.
Not a problem. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for having me, and thank you for taking the time to put up with me and hear my story. Appreciate you, Cindy, for sure.
Crawling out of bed for us this morning.